There he was, lying in a puddle of spilled wine. Venti the Bard. Oh, come outside in the Angel's Share, the popular tavern owned and supplied by the Dawn Winery. Venti would sing for the customers, and any donation given to him would quickly be turned into alcohol or a basket of apples. Most of the time, however, it was the sinful liquid. You were a nun, tasked by the acting Grandmaster Jean to keep an eye on the little rat, for a reason related to the Storm Terror incident. Of course, this made your mission important to you. You were even provided with a private quarter, as in a house next to the Angel's Share for you to take care of him. It fell onto you to prevent him from doing anything that could reflect badly on the Knights of Favonius. This was something the Bard obviously took great pleasure in abusing. You had been busy the entire day with choir practice. Despite your voice not being that great, you often had to fill in for a quite unruly, vision-bearing nun that, for some reason unknown to you, got away with it all the time. You stood next to the owner of the Angel's Share, master of the Dawn Winery, Diluc, who as a hobby often took over as the bartender. He looked displeased. Get that bard out of here. Your body was sore from standing all day, and you really didn't feel like carrying the drunken man. Do I have to? Diluc glared at you. At least help me. The redhead rolled his eyes and walked up to the bard's feet, picking them up. On three. Awkwardly you put your hands under Venti's arms. 1, said Diluc. Confirming you were ready, you said. 2. 3. The bard luckily was very light, but despite his petite feminine frame, he was still awkward to handle. His outfit didn't help with that. Slowly you and Diluc carried him into your house. Diluc sighed as you placed him on the carpet before Venti's bed. I'm going to close shop. You okay? You nodded. I just need to wash him, you said with mild disgust. Diluc blinked. Wash him? You shrugged. I keep his underwear on, it's fine. Diluc shook his head. Not in disdain, but in perplexion. You're really taking this serious, huh? You nodded. Well, have fun. And with that, Diluc left. You sighed, letting your shoulders hang. Slowly you slumped into the bathroom. Through an intricate collection of pipes, the water was heated at all times, so all you had to do was open a valve. Ten minutes later, the tub was full. You took a bar of soap from a cabinet situated under a mirror before walking back into the bedroom, where you undressed the unconscious bard, save for his undergarments and shirt. The first time you did this, he was semi-conscious and asked you to do this. It was embarrassing, and you could barely look at him. But by now, it was normal. You dragged him quickly over into the bathroom before sliding him into the hot water. He groaned in his sleep. The smell of booze came out of his mouth as he huffed. Trying not to gag, you grabbed the soap and began to drag it across his tender body. There was one particular aspect of this entire spectacle you were never looking forward to, and that was a suspicious tent that would arise in his pants by the time you reached his chest. You blushed, forcing yourself to ignore it. After he was properly cleaned, you lifted him out of the tub onto a towel. rubbing him dry, then placing him next to the heating unit to dry his pants. Grumbling, you grabbed his legs and dragged him into his bed. Exhausted, you kneeled down on the floor. Why you of all people? You wondered. Venti rolled over in his sleep, almost falling off the edge. You blinked. Any other person would have left by now, but not you. Your instincts did not allow this. Quickly you crawled into his bed and held onto him. You blushed. This was more comfy than you expected. You sighed, emitting defeat to your tired bones. Pulling him further into you, feeling his warm, slender body beneath you, you couldn't help but quickly fall asleep. When Venti awoke in the morning, he was confused. First of all, he didn't remember getting into bed. Secondly, why was he so horny? And thirdly, what was this warm feeling snaked around him? He blinked, adjusting his eyes to the pale morning light. He was about to lazily yawn when the thing around his hips squeezed him a little. Venti huffed and tried to look behind himself, immediately blushing when he could make out the shape of a woman. He bit his lower lip. The next thing the Bard noticed was the fact that he was in his underwear. Wait, did he do anything? Using his wind powers, he gently breezed over your body, making you shiver, and let go of him while turning around. Once free, he quickly crawled out of bed, rubbed over his face with a heavy blush. Of course, the god of Animo was used to alcohol, but he never did something like that while drunk. Not to mention, you were one of the nuns who accidentally were directly praying to him. The thing he hated was the fact that he actually enjoyed this. A lot. Or at least more than he should. Feeling both shame and pride at once. You sniffled in your sleep before slightly grinning, a thin line of drool coming out of your mouth. Venti's lips quivered in enjoyment. Slowly he crawled back onto the bed, positioning his head. Slowly he crawled back into his bed, positioning his head right above yours. Hey, he hushed. Hey, you grumbled. Hey, did we do anything? You were waking up. You never were a morning person. Waking up was like being slightly drunk for you. Confused, you opened your eyes and stared at an unfamiliar wall. The feeling of warmth right above your head was strange. Hey. Your eyes widened. Now you remembered. If you squeaked, that would be very cliché, he taunted, with a smug grin. Screw you, you muttered. He nudged your shoulder. Hey. What? You growled. Did we do anything? You rolled on your back and looked into his eyes. No. You pulled the blanket a little down, revealing your slightly disheveled nun dress. He blinked, unsure of whether or not he should be disappointed. Then why are you in my bed? You rolled onto your stomach and grumbled. Because I was tired and you were heavy. Venti chuckled. I'm not that heavy. With seemingly multiple liters of wine, yes, you are. Venti shrugged. Ah, well. Then he paused. Why are you still lying here? You blushed and now turned back around. Because you're blocking the way? He grinned. Oh, am I? You puffed up your cheeks. Are you sure you're just not really comfortable right now? You were, in fact. Venti was giving you a feeling of comfort and a certain divinity that made you feel at ease, which was strange, especially for a useless drunkard bard like him. Mockingly, he rubbed his cheek against your face, making you blush even harder. Don't the little baby wanna stay with Venti? Your toes curled up in disgust. When you didn't reply, Venti simply smirked and allowed himself to fall on top of you. You coughed as air was pressed out of your lungs, and for a moment you saw stars. What are you doing? You growled through clenched teeth, as he began to rub his face against your chest, while his arms wrapped tightly around you. Being comfy? You didn't know if your face was red from anger or if he was just making you flustered. Either way, you were in no position to fight him. Hey, you sighed. Psst, psst. What? Pull that blanket over us. You rolled your eyes. Why me? You're the one whose hands are free. No, they're not free. You blinked. They're stuck around you. He threw a toothy grin at you. Come, my dearest friend. The morning is still too young. Let's drift back to sleep. Gritting your teeth, you grabbed the blanket and threw it over the both of you. See? Isn't this much better? Why are you doing this? You asked. He chuckled. Well, I could ask you the same. After you didn't reply, he sighed in defeat. Well, I'm doing this because you're really soft. What about you? You looked away. Because I don't have a choice. Venti clicked his tongue. You state. Willingly, I might add. You hummed angrily. You haven't said no to any of my advances yet. He paused. And you still aren't giving me any. He inhaled through his teeth before saying, Arguably, the only thing you are more or less forced to is to take care of me. He grinned smugly. But I'm sure the moment you complain to Jean, she'll ask someone else. After all, isn't this the... He went close to her ear and whispered, City of Freedom. Then he rested his head between your breasts. Yeah, nice and comfy. It was fun messing with the nuns of Mondstadt. It was even more fun when they were as sinful as you, Venti thought. You horny little goblin, you hissed. Horny, yes. Goblin, I think I would disagree. So that's why he was doing this. Well, at least now, he wasn't running around in the city doing Barbados knows what, you thought. And if the sacrifice was your time and a nap, that was a price you were willing to pay.